Hey guys, what's up? It's Savannah. Welcome back to another episode of My Thoughts Exactly. Thank you guys so much for joining me here today. If you're new here, hi, my name is Savannah and I am your host of My Thoughts Exactly. Before we get started, make sure you go ahead and hit the subscribe button. That way you never miss an episode. We post weekly here on the podcast every single Friday. You're not going to want to miss it. And we also upload the video version onto YouTube on Fridays as well. So make sure you are subscribed. Happy Friday, you guys. I hope you all have had a great week. And if you haven't, guess what? It's Friday. You did it. You made it. It's the weekend. Happy Friday, you guys. I've had a pretty great week thus far. Can't really complain. It's been really nice and warm in Nashville these past couple days. It's definitely making me ready for fall. I am so excited. I'm telling myself I cannot buy any fall decor. No fall decor can come out until like mid-August, late August, maybe even early September. I know some people hate those kinds of people that like go crazy for the fall decor in July. And I understand, but it's so tempting. I just want all things pumpkin. I want the leaves. I want the chillier weather. I need to learn to like embrace the warmth because right now it's just not the era of life that I am in. I'm such a fall and winter girly at heart that summer is just really hard for me to get behind, especially the southern summers. They don't mess around when it comes to the humidity. But anyways, that's not what we're here to talk about today. I am super, super excited for today's episode because today is actually like almost a historical moment in My Thoughts Exactly, if you will, because we have our first ever guest on My Thoughts Exactly today to talk with you guys. And today we are interviewing Dr. Rollins, who is the founder of Elite Body Sculpture and AirSculpt. Now, I told you guys a couple months ago, I did an entire podcast episode on the fact that I got AirSculpt on my arms. Now, if you don't remember, AirSculpt is a very minimally invasive liposuction procedure, and I walked you through front to back my entire experience with AirSculpt, from how I found out about it, why I did it, the consult, the procedure itself, the recovery. I walked you through everything in regards to AirSculpt on that front. So if you've not checked out that episode, I highly recommend that you go back and listen to it so you can kind of get an understanding as to what the experience was like for me, and then come back and listen to Dr. Rollins talk about it, or vice versa. Maybe you want to hear Dr. Rollins talk about it first, and then you can go listen to the experience that I had. All in all, my experience with AirSculpt, I rave about it all the time. It was such an incredible and seamlessly easy experience for me. I tell people all the time how happy I am that I finally just decided to go ahead and go through with it. But for today's episode, like I said, I'm so incredibly grateful that we get to sit down with Dr. Rollins, again, the founder of AirSculpt himself, the man, the myth, the legend. He is a genius when it comes to this stuff. When I posted my episode on AirSculpt, there definitely was some questions about the procedure because it is a newer technology. It's not something that you would have heard about, many, many, many years ago. It's definitely a newer version of liposuction, and in my opinion, the better version. And that is why I am so, so grateful that we are able to sit down with Dr. Rollins today and just unpack all things AirSculpt. So I'm really excited for you guys to hear this conversation. So with that being said, let's just jump right on into it. Okay, Dr. Rollins, thank you so much for coming on to My Thoughts Exactly today. We are so excited to sit down with you and talk all things AirSculpt. Now, for those who are listening who don't know, I did a podcast episode about 2 months ago, right after I got my AirSculpt procedure done. I got my procedure done on May 23rd of this year, and I was talking about my experience getting my arms done. I also got my bra rolls done. And because that this is a newer technology and a newer procedure, and really a newer solution than I think what most people think of when they think of body contouring, there were understandably a lot of questions. So I'm excited to sit down with you today and really unpack everything, unpack it all. So thank you for joining us.
I'm really happy to be here, and I'm honored to speak with you and your audience about AirSculpt. I'm obviously super passionate about this, and our whole goal, and my goal has always been, since I created the technology, was just making people more comfortable in their own skin. And I feel like you're not sick, and the doctor doesn't need to have to be an unpleasant experience. The doctor should be a great experience, right? What's wrong with that? Right?
No, absolutely.
It's not the Middle Ages. So I think it's an opportunity to not only like kind of have outside in wellness, but also an opportunity to have like a positive, cathartic life experience where it can be like, my arms, for example, really bothered me, like, and I got rid of them. And, my arms reminded me of a bad relationship or a hard time in my life or whatever. And now they're gone and I feel like cleansed,
Oh,
right?
absolutely. And I feel like I know for me personally, just talking about arms, when I was explaining on the podcast how I had gotten my arms done, it always been a really big point of insecurity for me. I got so many comments, which I felt a little called out for because I didn't even like realize that it was happening. But I had so many people saying, that's so funny you say that because I've realized I never see you wear short sleeve shirts, tank tops, form fitting long sleeves. You're always covered. You're always in sweatshirts. You're always hiding a little bit. And it was such an insecurity point for me. And then when finding AirSculpt, it was like a breath of fresh air. Everyone was so welcoming, so nice, and so understanding to, what the insecurities that someone else can have really are. And really offering a new solution was such a breath of fresh air, like I said. So before we get into, AirSculpt in and of itself, I want our listeners to just kind of know a little bit more about you. I want to know about your background, your story a little bit, and kind of, what was the decision to get into cosmetic surgery and body contouring?
Well, that's a great question. Uh, it's a funny answer. I never wanted to be a doctor. I
Okay.
wanted to be a fashion designer.
Okay.
My dad's a doctor, and my parents were not into that career option for me.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, well, how can I be the medical equivalent of a fashion designer? And so I went to medical school literally only wanting to do this. I was never really interested in like healthcare or sick
Mm-hmm.
people. What I did see is, I remember when I was in high school, a good friend of mine got a nose job,
Okay.
and it was so helpful. He was my best friend, and it was so helpful for him. And I was like, what an incredible impact. I was still a teenager, but I was like, oh my God, this transformed my friend's life. And I thought, what an amazing thing to do for people, right? Like,
Mhm.
and it was so artistic that I was like really into it. And it was before plastic surgery or cosmetic surgery was even something people talked about.
Right.
And so that's really like I remember before I like sent in at the time it was like a paper application. Before I sent it in, I'm like, okay, am I sure I want to do this? I'm like, I want to do this so I can help people the same way my friend got help. And it's so artistic and creative, and that's what I'm into. So
That's amazing. That's
yeah,
such
that's my
a that's
story.
such a cool transition. And when you think about or when AirSculpt, when you were kind of cultivating that idea, where did that stem from? Because you go from, fashion to wanting to help people. And then where does the idea of AirSculpt really come into play with that?
Well, AirSculpt has to do with a lot of things. First of all, if you think about fashion design again, your arms, right, and your bra rolls.
Yeah.
Well, you have to create a pattern. Just like if you're making a suit or a dress or pants, the pattern determines how the garment's going to look, right?
Very
So
true.
part of AirSculpt is I developed patterns, right? Exactly where on your arm you go. Like for example, around this area, a lot of women have a nugget of fat here.
Mhm.
So our pattern at AirSculpt encompasses all these areas, and I've been doing this my whole adult life. So I know, for example, some women have like a chunk of fat that looks like a little quail egg right here in their armpit. We encompass that. And I want everything to look completely natural and follow anatomic lines. Here's another example. If you stick out your arm like this, anyone looks in the mirror, you're going to see a line like this,
Mhm.
right? It's a normal line that every human has between their bicep and their tricep.
Yeah.
Well, we use the built-in lines. That way, in our pattern, that way everything looks like it's always been that way, right?
That's
It
amazing.
drives me crazy when I see other people or whatever who don't follow these natural lines of demarcation because I'm like, oh, that looks so unnatural. And whenever
Right.
I live in Miami, when I go to the beach, I'm like, I need to like just not come to the, you know?
Close your eyes.
Yeah, and that's part of it. Another part is I started doing liposuction like everybody else,
Mhm.
and I was like, I literally felt traumatized. Like I felt like I was a serial killer on one of your podcasts.
Yep.
Okay. I no, I did. I felt like I was stabbing someone to death. It was
Right.
crazy. It was like I can't believe people do this to other people. It was horrible. They had a lot of bleeding, a lot of bruising, and results that were not anything that I was super proud of.
Mhm.
And it didn't tighten skin. If you make an area of the body smaller and you don't tighten the skin, are you helping them or hurting them?
Very true. Yeah. And that is something that I want to touch on today is talking about AirSculpt Plus, because that's something that I did when I got my arms done. And for those who don't know, from my understanding, it's the skin tightening portion that comes along with
Well,
AirSculpt.
let's talk about that for a second. So I invented AirSculpt to find a minimally invasive yet maximally effective way to remove fat cells cell by cell. Every cell is the size of about a cookie crumb. So knowing that they're visible to the naked eye, it's not like skin cells that you can't see. Fat cells you can see. And I was like, well, I was brushing my teeth one day with a Crest spin brush, like a battery powered toothbrush, and I'm like,
Yeah.
maybe we could find a gentler, more effective way to remove fat using a similar mechanism. And that's where AirSculpt comes from. The thing about AirSculpt that I didn't even plan for when I invented it, that is the most key component, is we're removing these cells cell by cell instead of scraping fat and flesh out of your body, serial killer style.
Yeah.
The key thing here is the cannula. It's actually this right here. This tube that takes out the fat is moving so fast. I'm sure you felt vibration during the procedure.
Yes, it almost felt like when people ask me, I say it was like a Theragun, like one of those
Yeah,
massage guns. Yeah.
everybody says it feels like that. Yeah,
Yeah.
like a sports massage gun. So because this is moving back and forth like this so fast, it's moving so fast. When you look at it, it just looks blurry. You can't even tell where it is or anything. Well, that's the magic, the secret sauce here is it's moving back and forth under your skin. It's moving so fast, it's creating friction. Friction creates heat. And just like any other skin tightening modality on the planet, we're creating collagen, right? Instead of using a laser or plasma or radio frequency or microwave technology, we're using friction. And it's the really elegant thing here is we're heating up your skin to create more collagen. Collagen fibers all wind in on themselves. I just looked at your before and after picture, and you have great skin tightening, and it's only been 2 months. Your skin tightening is going to get better. Okay, like you're not there yet. You still have more result coming.
I know, which is crazy because I'm so happy with my results. Whenever I talk to anyone about what I did and what I got done with AirSculpt, I can't recommend it enough. I think it is such a amazing, alternative. And I wouldn't even say alternative. I would say it should be just like what everyone does when it comes to, liposuction, having it be minimally invasive. The pain was so minimal in and of itself, even if like non-existent. I know everyone has different pain tolerances, but for me, it was like such an enjoyable experience because again, the team is so great. And I explained on my podcast, going in, you get your dose, you get your little glass of rosé or two or three to kind of loosen you up a little bit and calm the nerves. And, you go in and you're listening to music and you're able to have conversation. You're able to talk. You're able to kind of fully understand really what's going on. And it's so quick. I remember for me personally, my procedure started at 11:32 and we were done by 12:19 front to back. It was very, very seamless.
And look, your arms bothered you, what did you say, since high school or something?
Oh, for forever, for as long as I can remember.
And in 45 minutes, your problem was erased.
Yeah.
That's what it's all about. I mean, that's why I'm so passionate about AirSculpt, and everyone at AirSculpt is so enthusiastic. And that's why your team was good. Is we're changing people's lives in 45 minutes. And it's one and done, right? It's not like you have to go back and be like, well, maybe in 3 months it'll look good. No, I bet when did you start seeing a change in your arms?
Truthfully, I noticed a difference and it was kind of, I'm assuming it's because the swelling hadn't fully hit yet, which the swelling was very minimal as well. But I noticed it the very next morning when I looked into the mirror and I saw what I was looking at. I kind of had to do a double take. I was like, are those my arms? Like, that's what I like it, not to like be dramatic, but it's like an emotional thing also. Like to
No,
have such a deep rooted insecurity, being able to have such a seamless fix like that was truly like life changing.
that's what it's all about. Like when I started doing AirSculpt and started getting people sending me 48-hour or 24-hour mirror selfies, and they had like tears going down their face, it was like I was like, wow, this is like the best thing like I could possibly do with my life. Like
Mhm.
it was amazing, and that makes me so happy. Like really, it does. Like I'm so
Oh,
happy to hear. That's amazing.
yeah.
Um, yeah, I don't know what else to say. Like you said it all. I
Well,
mean, it doesn't hurt. Like you get to listen to your own music. What kind of music did you listen to?
oh, we listened to Taylor Swift. We listened to Taylor
I had a
Swift.
feeling that was good. I've been hearing a lot of that lately.
I know when I
Okay.
went in and I requested it, they were like, we've been getting a lot of Taylor lately. Like it's just been like the number one request. Now, I do want to ask, when talking to the audience about, who would be a good candidate for this? Like who is the prime candidate, or I don't know if a better verbiage would be who's maybe not the best candidate for this, kind of talking about who the audience for AirSculpt really is.
Great question. Before I touch on that, I want to talk about AirSculpt Plus because
Please.
we touched on it for a second. Um, if you were my patient, based on what I saw in you before, I wouldn't have even recommended AirSculpt Plus to you because it's really for people. AirSculpt tightens skin incredibly well, so well that sometimes when I've had patients just like yourself, they actually have to loosen up their skin. I have to have them stretch out their arms. Okay,
Okay. Yeah.
so AirSculpt Plus is something that I use in patients and that I recommend using in patients that have really loose skin, like woman who's had 4 kids,
Okay.
lower belly skin, arm skin, and someone who's lost a lot of weight from like Ozempic or something. I love it in the chin because a lot of people have like who gain weight, lose weight, gain weight, lose weight. That yo-yoing gives loose skin, so I like to use it to tighten up the neck area. Um, in the back, sometimes in the back and armpit, if you just have empty skin to begin with, then I like to add that. But otherwise, it's not like it's only for people who have loose, empty skin to begin with,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
But it does help you heal faster. So, if when I do a celebrity for TV, I always use it because they're like,
Right.
I need to be on camera in a week, right?
Right.
And I'm like, okay, we're going to do AirSculpt Plus on you. I just did someone that's going to be announced soon from a popular reality show.
Mhm.
And it's like, she's like, I have to be in a bikini in Cabo in 2 weeks.
AirSculpt
She
Plus.
didn't need AirSculpt Plus, but it's a turbo boost to your results. So you benefited from that. But
Yeah, absolutely. I think that when talking about AirSculpt Plus, I know that in just AirSculpt in general, when I was talking to my team, they were telling me that, you're going to see your best result or good results in 3 months and best results in 6 months. That was kind of the time frame I was given. I'm 2 months out and I already see like night and day results just from looking at before and after pictures and looking at myself in the mirror. I can definitely tell that the AirSculpt Plus sped up the healing process for sure and has made a very big difference.
I'm going to promise you that in another month, it's been 2 months and one day for you.
Yeah.
One more month, 29 days, and you're going to have an incrementally better result. So I don't think you realize what your real result is. And that's kind of the double-edged sword of AirSculpt is people look so good so fast. They think, well, that's my result. I promise you, and everyone listening to this is listening to me right now, like your result is going to get probably about 20% better. And I think right around 3 months, you're going to be done, especially with AirSculpt Plus
Mm-hmm.
in a patient like you.
Yeah.
If you were a bigger patient with more loose skin, I might say 3 to 6 months, but you're a 3 monther. Like one more month and you're done.
No, that's so true what you were saying because even after the first 24 hours, I was like, holy heck, like this is crazy. And then as the weeks went by and I got to like 1 month, I'm like, wow, like, okay, like go off, like this is amazing. And then as time kept going and now we're at the 2 month mark, I'm like jaw dropped a little bit. It's a crazy, crazy before and after to see a crazy comparison.
And your skin looks great. Like that's when I looked at your picture, like you had a little bit of bowing of your skin on the rear
Yes.
picture. And we'll post this, and I'm sure you will too.
Yes.
I mean, it is straight across.
Mm-hmm.
You're still going to get tighter.
See, that's so crazy because when I like I'll sit every once in a while when I'm sitting down, I'll like grab my arms. I think it's just like out of it's just out of habit. Like I've always done that. Like, but I'll reach for the loose skin and I'll grab my loose skin. Now I have no loose skin to grab and I'm like feeling it and I'm like, oh my goodness, like there's like nothing really to grab or it's just a crazy, crazy difference.
I love that. When were you able to like go back to like your normal day?
Oh my goodness. The next day, I got the procedure done. I was in there at, like I said, like 11 o'clock was my, appointment time. I got there. I was home by 1 o'clock. I remember my boyfriend, he had like a list of things that I wanted him to do that day, and he wasn't able to do any of them because I was in and out so fast. I like they called him when he got to the first place, and so he had to turn right back around. And then the following day, I had like a family gathering that I went to, and I was able to, be fully present, fully there, and I was able to, go for my little like 30-minute walks and really just get back into normal life surprisingly quickly. I like had expected myself to kind of, be down and out for maybe a few days, but no, I was up and at 'em the next day.
Let me ask you another question. Did you ever think about using like Ozempic or Mounjaro to get rid of your arms?
Absolutely. I I've had friends and family members who have used Ozempic and semaglutide, and I've seen the results that it could give them, and I also knew because of that it's a double-edged sword. You get instant results very quickly, but then you get off of it and you have the ability to really yo-yo, like you said, back and forth with your weight. And I wanted something that was going to be a more permanent fix, and I wanted something like you said that was like it's a one-time thing, like you do this and it works. And so that's why AirSculpt was the easy decision for me. It was like a no-brainer. It was, I know that I know myself, and I know that this has been an insecurity of mine for long enough that I want to fix this now, and I want it to be a one and done. And I know you still have to, obviously, this is a point to touch on too, maintain the healthy lifestyle. This is not something where you do it and then like you lay on the couch for the rest of your life. Like you need to still continue having that healthy lifestyle. But AirSculpt was always the easier decision for me.
I like to tell patients it's like pressing the reset button.
Yeah.
That fat is permanently gone, but it's not weight gain insurance, right?
Yes.
So I'm removing your problem areas, tightening your skin, and you just need to keep it going, right?
Yeah.
One thing I wanted to bring up about Ozempic and Mounjaro, et cetera, is that we love those drugs and we think that they're great for reducing overall body size, but they don't remove problem areas, right? So one thing is body size, another thing is body shape. And I bet if you would have lost weight on a moon, if you, not that you need to, but you don't, but if you tried that, you would probably go down on the scale, right?
Yeah.
But your arms would stay the same. And that's what we see. 50% of our patients are on those medications right now.
Yeah.
And they're like, I did it. I lost 20 pounds, 30 pounds. My arms still bother me. My back brow rolls look worse. They're kind of like flabbier now. And now like my upper belly doesn't look the same as my lower. And we fix all that. But I want your listeners to understand that like AirSculpt and those drugs work really well together, but that those drugs don't fix problem areas. And those problem areas are not what those drugs are for.
Right. So, that's very true. That's a very good point. That's a good thing to touch on for sure. And, so now that we're talking about, the types of patients that you do see, who is your prime candidate for AirSculpt?
Let's get to that. Yeah. So first of all, our motto is if you can pinch it, we can take it.
Okay.
So when I have people like that I run into, they come to me at restaurants, they're like, am I a candidate for AirSculpt or whatever? And I say, well, can you pinch it? And I'm like, show me your pinch. That's all. Whatever you can pinch, we can take. If you have no pinch, there's no AirSculpt for you.
Okay.
Okay. For example, if you have like a rock hard pot belly, there's no pinch there because that's all organ fat, and no one on earth can take organ fat. Okay. That's a good opportunity for like a Mounjaro.
Right.
But any pinchable fat, and pinchable fat feels kind of like soft rubber, we can take with no needle, no scalpel, and no stitches. Now, who's not a candidate? Let's say you can pinch your fat, right? I'll tell you who's not a candidate are people who have like a bleeding disorder like hemophilia,
Okay.
um, people that are on really heavy medication for like a very serious illness. Like we've had people who gain weight from chemotherapy, and we're like, let's wait until your chemotherapy is over and you have a clean bill of health, and then we can do it. If a woman has just had a baby, we like for her to wait 3 months, okay, and if
Okay.
she's or until she's done breastfeeding.
Okay.
So that's important. That's really it. I mean, we've treated people from 18 to like I think our oldest patient right now is 83 years old.
Really?
Yeah, older than
Wow.
Biden.
Oh.
So,
That's
you know,
surprising.
yeah, and it was a guy who wanted a six pack. So,
Really?
yeah, really. But I actually, I'll tell you a story. I asked him,
Please.
I was like, you're 83 and he lived in like a senior living place. And
Okay.
I'm like, so your goal was a six pack, and I'm not here to judge, right?
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah. I'm like, tell me about that. And he's like, well, when you get to be my age, there's not many guys left. And
Mm.
he's like, I'm kind of a ladies' man now. He's like, I have three girlfriends, and
Oh,
and he's like, I have to really take pride in the way I look. And
you
I was
know
like,
what?
okay,
Good for
yeah,
him.
yeah, I
Good for
know,
him.
yeah,
That's amazing.
yeah. So we treat people of all ages. I've treated people that are 400 pounds plus. I've
Okay.
done, treated famous actresses and models that you would never think in a million years would ever get anything like this. And I'm sure
Hmm.
they wouldn't admit to it,
Hmm.
but they have to be like naked or in a bikini or in whatever in the public eye. And a little bit of knee fat or inner thigh fat or arm fat can make a really big difference in their self esteem, especially when your income depends on these like centimeters of your body. So
Absolutely.
we've treated people that you would never imagine would ever get anything like this, and we've treated people that are so heavy you would never think this would be an option for them. But hey, if you're really overweight and we can get you to be able to exercise, and we can take the pressure off your knees, and we can get you to be able to only get one seat on the airplane and shop at a normal store, well, that moves the ball in the right direction. And
Absolutely.
I've seen people who will get this done who are really overweight, who make a huge change in their life afterwards. Sometimes we give them Mounjaro as well.
Okay.
And like those are, and we have on our Instagram, we have a couple of pictures like this. They're earth shattering changes. And
Wow.
that's what it's all about is I like people making people like you happy.
Hmm.
There's so many different ways to help someone feel more comfortable in their own skin. But as long as you're not sick and as
Okay.
long as you don't have like a genetic disorder that means you can't get procedures done, you're probably okay.
Okay. Well, that's very good to know. And I know, we're kind of going around a little bit here, but I want to kind of go back to the AirSculpt Plus for a second because I do know that you guys also offer, and I want to touch on this, is the fat transfer.
Yeah,
That's something that you can also do with AirSculpt, right? Can you
yeah,
explain that a little bit for people?
sure. Well, I think we're the largest provider of fat transfers in America.
Okay.
And yeah, I've made it so every fat cell that we remove from people's bodies is available for transfer.
Okay.
And unless for some reason we don't want that. But I like that because um, this fat is so valuable. It's rich in stem cells, right? And it's like human clay, right? And I've taken people's fat out from their love handles and added it to their calves. And you'd think, well, what? Now everyone wants smaller calves. Well,
Right.
if your calves are really skinny, you might want actually bigger calves so they look more proportional. It's great for reproportioning the body. I love doing it for breasts. I am not a fan of breast implants. I don't
Okay.
want to put like your fat is your fat, right? You
Very
own
true.
it. It's
Very
your
true.
body. Why would you throw that away? I want to put it in your face instead of filler, which is basically plastic, right?
Right.
It's in your breast instead of plastic implants, right?
Yes.
We all know plastic is bad, right?
Absolutely.
Right.
100%. Yeah.
I like doing what we call a hip flip, filling up the hip dips and creating a more of a rounded butt. I like BBLs, right? Because I mean, the alternatives are just not, to me, that they're not good answers. Like, why would you
Okay.
not recycle this fat? It's an amazing thing, and it's all while you're awake. So
Yeah. And it's really like you're sculpting, like you're just like
Yeah,
creating a sculpture. That's so cool. I think that that's
it,
amazing. That's
it's really
awesome.
fun to do. And
Yeah.
I've seen people, it's really can transform someone proportionally. It's not like we're not like taking someone from an A cup, for example, to a D cup.
Right.
What we're doing is, women will say, gee whiz, when I was 20 pounds heavier, I liked my breast better. Well, that's
Mhm.
something we can do. You know what I'm saying? That's why we
Yeah.
call it the upper cup.
That's what it's called, right?
Yeah.
Yep. That's awesome. Okay, so let's say, so now that we have all this, I want to kind of just for everyone's understanding, let's say they hear this and they're sold, they're in, they're ready, they're going to do it. Can you walk us through what the process is, like start to finish? Like, where would be the best place for someone to start if they decided that this is the route that they want to take?
Well, people can either go to our Instagram, which is at AirSculpt, or airsculpt.com, which is our website, and just say that they want a consultation. We do any consult can be done virtually, just like we're doing this. I mean, I would be able to tell you what areas you could or couldn't do, just like this. Or
Okay.
if you want to come into our office, and we have so many, we have almost 30 now.
Wow.
So, yeah, so wherever is your closest office to you, you can go in. Consults are free and see if you're a candidate, and they'll go over pricing and financing and scheduling and stuff. And I recommend that if you're interested in it, finding out about it, right? Why would you not do a consult and see if it's an option for you?
Absolutely. Yeah. I remember when I went in for my consult, went in on a Monday, and then by Thursday I was back and I was ready for my procedure. It was such a quick turnaround. And I know for some people they can schedule it out in advance, but I remember going in for my consult, and again, like all of my questions were answered. Everyone was so, like you said, enthusiastic and willing and wanting to help. And it was, right then and there, I was like, let's just do it. Let's go. Like, I'm ready. And three
Awesome.
days later, new arms.
And it worked for you, and we treat so many thousands of people a year who go through the exact same experience. I think a lot of people don't realize what we do is possible, number
Yeah.
one, and number two, they're afraid. And that's why doing what we're doing is so important. There is nothing to be afraid of, right? This is
No.
minimally invasive, but maximally effective.
Yeah. No, exactly. I remember I would say like my biggest fear in general, just talking about surgery in general, was always general anesthesia. That was the one thing that I was most afraid of for a multitude of reasons. And to hear that air sculpt can be done while you're awake and it still be a, painless or, minimally painful experience, that was something that was super enticing to me and was one of the things that really drew me to it. And then going in and learning more about it and learning how easy the process is and minimally invasive and the downtime, it's like, it's a no brainer, like truthfully, a no brainer.
I agree. I mean, I've done everything I can to make it a no-brainer. Just so you know about being awake, it's not only you can be awake, it's far better. And I'll tell you why. Not only is it safer, right? And going being put to sleep is scary,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
Right?
Yes.
Let's we all know that.
Yes.
It also makes it more expensive, right? It
Yes.
also means more downtime. And you're probably gonna throw up when you
Right.
right? We all know this. But besides all of that stuff, you actually get a better result by being awake. Why? I bet when they were doing your arms, they had you move in different positions.
Yep.
I have something with arms I like to do called the Statue of Liberty,
Yeah.
where I like the arm raised because I want to see it from every angle. When you're asleep, you can't do that.
Very true.
So, right, I want to see symmetry. I want the patient to turn. I want to hold the arm out and just see, like, did I miss anything? Does everything look perfect?
Mhm.
Right? There's no way you can do any of that when someone's asleep. They're like a sack of potatoes,
Yeah.
right? I sometimes even have my female patients that want to see tricep. I just did someone from a show called The Valley,
Yeah.
and we did a podcast with her, and she really wanted to see like tricep definition. So during the procedure, I had her flex your tricep. I'm like, okay. I was like,
You know
we
where it
got
is.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't do that when someone's asleep.
No, not at all. That's incredible. That is amazing. Very, very cool.
Same
Well,
goes with any area of the body.
yeah, that is also true. Yeah. Being awake was definitely a big benefit in my mind, along with everything else. But, being able to be awake and be present and, again, moving through all of it and still feeling like I had control of my body was a really important thing. But anyways, we're going to wrap this up right here. Thank you so much for coming on and explaining all
Thank
of
you.
this. This has been such a pleasure to be able to talk to you. And I know
You're a good
will...
interviewer.
Oh, thank
you. Really
you.
are. I do a lot of these. Not everybody's a good interviewer. You're like Barbara Walters for this.
Thanks.
Great job.
Well, thank you. Well, I know everyone's going to be very, very happy to listen, and I will let you go, but enjoy the rest of your day. And
thank you very much. I appreciate this, really.
Of course. Of course. You have a good one.
You too. Take care.
Bye. Okay, you guys, that is the end of the interview. I hope you guys enjoyed learning about all things AirSculpt, unpacking everything, and getting a chance to hear from Dr. Rollins himself about the procedure and everything that goes along with it. So again, I want to say a huge thank you to Dr. Rollins for sitting down with us and talking to us today about the procedure in and of itself. And with that being said, you guys, that is all from me today. Thank you guys so much for tuning into another episode of My Thoughts Exactly. Again, if you're new here, hi, my name is Savannah. I'm your host of My Thoughts Exactly. Make sure you go ahead and hit the subscribe button. That way you never miss an episode. We post weekly here on the podcast every single Friday. You're not going to want to miss it. I'll be back next week with a brand new one for you guys, and I will see you there. Bye, guys.